Thank you, Chairman, for holding this hearing. And I want to welcome our witnesses, in particular, Dr. Osley, fellow Hoosier. Grateful for your presence here today. And I would like to begin by asking a couple of questions about community foundations. We take great pride in our community foundations in the state of Indiana. And Dr. Osley, as you know, beginning in 1990, the Lilly Endowment began an initiative known as GIFT, or Giving Indiana Funds for Tomorrow. This is a way to help establish and strengthen community foundations across the state of Indiana. When GIFT began, there were fewer than 12 community foundations, and today there are 94 community foundations. We have 92 counties, so of course that's more than one per county. Indiana is the only state in the country with a community foundation in every single county. And we have the country's highest concentration of community foundations. Dr. Osley, how does this structure, the only state in the country with a community foundation in every single county, enable our state to better serve local communities?
Thank you, Senator Young, for your leadership. Indiana is unique. We have, as you've noted, a community foundation in every single county, probably the highest concentration of any state in the country. There are over 700 community foundations nationwide. What we've seen in this crisis is community foundations have played a vital role, not just in collaborating and coordinating, but also avoiding duplication and connecting donors to needs. One takeaway from the work in Indiana is the idea that every single American is a philanthropist. You don't have to have millions of dollars. People of all different backgrounds can participate. And in this crisis, in our communities, community foundations have been the conveners, the collaborators, and also catalysts for innovation, bringing new ideas to the forefront and helping donors to better understand those local community needs. So I think there's some important examples and models that other states and other communities can learn from. So thank you for mentioning that.
Well, that was an excellent segue, Dr. Osley, because it begs the question, since we're in Washington, D.C., and I know my colleagues and their staff are watching attentively. Are there major barriers that you might speak to establishing more community foundations around the country?
We have an endowed chair in community philanthropy at the Indiana University Lilly Family School. Her name is Dr. Lori Paulberg. And one point she has noted is that in every state, there is the potential, of course, to expand the work of community foundations, but every state is different. And we have to look at what those barriers are at a state level. What we have seen that has really worked in Indiana is having foundations that are willing to help support through matching grants programs. But in other states, we've had incentives for contributions to community foundations. I think Kansas is one of them, where there is an incentive. So as we look across and how to support community foundations, I think what we've learned so far is just the role that they play. And I think my colleague, Dr. Gene Sterling, can also share his example here in Virginia, that they can really help support that sort of leadership and innovation that's often lacking in a crisis.
Well, thank you, Doctor. And I'll be submitting for the record some questions to the other witnesses if you have thoughts on barriers that we can eliminate to ensure there's greater uptake in community foundations. And you can learn from what we'll take some liberties and call the Indiana model. That would be fantastic. So in my remaining bit of time here, Dr. Osley, I would like to highlight just a column you wrote recently for the Indianapolis Business Journal. You stated that the pace of technological innovation in the philanthropic sector is increasing, and it's going to need to accelerate this year and in future years. We've had some real notable examples where Central Indiana Community Foundation has partnered with an Indianapolis-based tech company selflessly and met with some success in ensuring that companies have the tools to track and manage their charitable giving. In short, Dr. Osley, I'll again submit some questions to you to ask in greater detail about this topic, but why is it so important for organizations in the charitable giving space to embrace technological innovation?
Excellent question, Senator Young. Just to put this in perspective, online giving, as we've noted, grew by double digits over the last year. And today, online giving accounts for 10% of charitable giving overall, its highest ever on record. What this means is nonprofits have had to shift a lot of their engagement, service delivery, and even just their day-to-day operations online. And many nonprofits were not in a position to do so, did not have the resources or the capability. When we look at workplace giving, a very important channel, about $6 billion is given through workplace giving. Companies also face this challenge because in the past, workplace giving was done in person. They had to shift this online. So what we're looking at is an acceleration in innovation, a need for greater reliance on technology for giving. And we're also seeing many nonprofits pivot, in other words, take advantage of these new technologies. But that there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And I think as we look ahead, we're also going to need to think about some of the smaller organizations that haven't necessarily adapted at such a rapid rate. What do they need? And religious congregations, we should also remember, many of them had to start receiving donations online and may not have done so before. So what this highlights is just a gap in perhaps the need and where some of the organizations are at this point.